The Cleveland Browns didn't just beat the Pittsburgh Steelers 13-6, they flipped the energy inside the building overnight.
Well, don't talk to the Browns about draft position or the future. Today was all about beating the Pittsburgh Steelers, and they did just that. In the end, the Browns beat Pittsburgh 13-6. Cleveland improving to 4-12 on the season. One win better than last season, and they've still got one game left next weekend against the Cincinnati Bengals.
A cold, physical AFC North battle turned into a defining moment for Shedeur Sanders, and as sources say, the locker room felt different the moment the clock hit 0. This wasn't a flashy win, it was a grown man win. Defense first, mistake light, mentally tough football, the exact kind of game Cleveland has begged for from its quarterbacks for years. Shedeur Sanders didn't light up the stat sheet, but he controlled the game. No panic, no reckless throws, no hero ball nonsense.
A lead they were able to hang on to, but on the play, he's out, he's lost. I just watched Shedeur Sanders outplay Aaron Bleepin Rodgers for all 4 quarters for a signature win.
Against a Steelers defense built to confuse rookies, he stayed patient, trusted his reads, and took what was there. Third downs mattered, field position mattered, clock management mattered, and for once, Cleveland played the Steelers without beating itself. As sources say, the coaching staff emphasized one thing all week: survive the chaos. Pittsburgh thrives on pressure, disguise, and intimidation.
But Aaron went 21 of 39. Yikes. That means 18 incompletions against 21 completions. 18 incomplete for only 168.
Sanders didn't flinch. He stepped up in muddy pockets, took hits, and kept the offense on schedule. That composure showed up most on the final scoring drive, where Cleveland chewed clock and slammed the door shut. The defense deserves credit, but this win still runs through the quarterback. Shedeur protected the football, communicated clearly, and kept everyone locked in. Veterans noticed, coaches noticed, and the Steelers definitely noticed. This wasn't about style points. This was about credibility. Winning ugly in the AFC North earns respect fast. And as sources say, players walked out of that stadium believing something real might finally be forming under center. The post-game press conference didn't sound like a rookie riding emotion. It sounded like a quarterback who's been through it.
How about how this team fights? Whatever's in front of us, we fight. We fight for 60 minutes together because we care about each other.
When Shedeur Sanders spoke about his growth, the clip exploded online, but not for the reason most people expected. It wasn't trash talk, it wasn't bravado, it was honesty. Sanders talked openly about how the game used to feel too fast, how mistakes earlier in the season shook confidence, how learning when not to make a play mattered just as much as making one. As sources say, that self-awareness stunned analysts who expected rehearsed cliches. The viral moment came when he addressed maturity, mentally and emotionally. No blaming play calls, no pointing fingers, just ownership. That's rare from rookies, especially ones under this much spotlight. Social media ran with one quote, but insiders focused on the full message. This wasn't about gifs, headlines, or hype. This was about patience and preparation. Sanders made it clear he understands development isn't linear, and that's when fans realized this wasn't the same quarterback from September.
Shedeur Sanders was fantastic in the first half of this game.
The main thing is like I just like throwing the ball. I just like throwing the ball a lot, and you know, in some situations you can't just throw your dog a bone sometimes.
As sources say, several veterans in the locker room nodded while watching the clip. That's the moment respect locks in. When teammates believe the quarterback understands the grind, leadership follows naturally. This Steelers win won't be remembered for numbers. It'll be remembered for trust. Trust from coaches, trust from teammates, trust from ownership. As sources say, this performance strengthened Shedeur Sanders' internal standing more than any stat-heavy outing could. Cleveland has seen talented quarterbacks before. What it hasn't seen consistently is mental steadiness under pressure. Sanders showed he can operate within structure, avoid disaster, and still move the offense. That's the baseline every franchise quarterback must hit. The Browns didn't ask him to carry the team. They asked him to steer it. And he did exactly that. No late-game meltdown, no forced throws, just smart football. As sources say, internal evaluations after the game highlighted decision-making, huddle command, and sideline communication. Those don't show up on TV, but they decide careers.
Remember, I'm going to remind you, Pro Football Focus ranks Shedeur's offensive line dead last in the National Football League. Pro Football Focus ranks Shedeur's receiving core dead last in the National Football League. And after today,
this win also resets the narrative. Instead of rookie struggling to adjust, the conversation becomes rookie learning how to win ugly. That shift is massive heading into the offseason. Early season interceptions told one story. Sunday told another. Development isn't about erasing mistakes, it's about responding to them. Sanders didn't abandon aggression, he refined it. The Browns simplified reads without limiting responsibility. Sanders learned when to check down and when to take calculated shots. That balance is the difference between surviving and succeeding in the NFL. As sources say, film sessions became more collaborative recently. Less instruction, more conversation. That's a sign of trust growing fast. Against Pittsburgh, Sanders showed timing, anticipation, and restraint. Those traits don't come from talent alone. They come from reps, failure, and humility. This wasn't a ceiling game, it was a foundation game. The Browns didn't just beat a rival, they gained clarity. As sources say, internal conversations now revolve around continuity, not replacement. That alone changes offseason priorities. Sanders proved he can win the kind of games Cleveland plays most often. Cold, tight, physical, low scoring. That matters more than highlight reels. If this trajectory holds, Cleveland can finally build around a quarterback instead of constantly searching for one. That stability unlocks everything else. Roster planning, coaching confidence, and locker room belief. This win didn't crown a superstar. It confirmed progress. And in Cleveland, that's priceless. Something subtle but powerful happened after the Steelers game. And as sources say, it didn't happen on camera.
Right here, Shedeur to Tillman. Right? Let's just play it and get it going right here.
12 for Cleveland, second possession.
I mean, that's a hell of a pass.
Inside the locker room, the tone around Shedeur Sanders shifted from cautious optimism to quiet belief. That matters more than headlines. Veteran players don't crown leaders easily, especially in Cleveland. They wait, they test, they watch how you respond when things get ugly. Sunday was one of those tests, and Sanders passed it. As sources say, several defensive leaders pulled Sanders aside post-game. No speeches, no drama, just respect. That's how real leadership starts in the NFL. Not with noise, but with acknowledgement. The defense had just carried a heavy load, and they trusted the quarterback to protect the win. He did exactly that. What stood out wasn't confidence, it was calm. Sanders wasn't celebrating like the job was done. He wasn't sulking like he needed validation. He handled the moment like someone who understands this league eats arrogance alive. That balance is rare, especially for rookies under a microscope. Inside the building, coaches noticed the same thing. Communication stayed clean. Body language stayed steady. No visible panic when drives stalled. That kind of emotional control spreads fast through a team. As sources say, this game will be referenced internally for months, not for stats, but for behavior. That's how quarterbacks earn long leashes in tough organizations. You show you can survive pressure, not just thrive when things go right. Something subtle but powerful happened after the Steelers game, and as sources say, it didn't happen on camera. Inside the locker room, the tone around Shedeur Sanders shifted from cautious optimism to quiet belief. That matters more than headlines. Veteran players don't crown leaders easily, especially in Cleveland. They wait, they test, they watch how you respond when things get ugly. Sunday was one of those tests, and Sanders passed it. As sources say, several defensive leaders pulled Sanders aside post-game. No speeches, no drama, just respect. That's how real leadership starts in the NFL. Not with noise, but with acknowledgement. The defense had just carried a heavy load, and they trusted the quarterback to protect the win. He did exactly that. What stood out wasn't confidence, it was calm. Sanders wasn't celebrating like the job was done. He wasn't sulking like he needed validation. He handled the moment like someone who understands this league eats arrogance alive. That balance is rare, especially for rookies under a microscope. Inside the building, coaches noticed the same thing. Communication stayed clean. Body language stayed steady. No visible panic when drives stalled. That kind of emotional control spreads fast through a team. As sources say, this game will be referenced internally for months, not for stats, but for behavior. That's how quarterbacks earn long leashes in tough organizations. You show you can survive pressure, not just thrive when things go right. This win didn't guarantee anything, but it clarified everything. As sources say, the Browns now know what kind of quarterback they're dealing with. Not a savior, not a project, a builder. Sanders showed he can take coaching, absorb criticism, and adjust without losing identity. That's the foundation every franchise quarterback needs. Talent opens doors, mentality keeps them open. Looking ahead, the focus shifts to continuity. More reps with starters, more say in game planning, more responsibility at the line of scrimmage. Those are earned privileges, and Sunday earned him a bigger seat at the table. The pressure won't ease, defenses will test him harder, expectations will rise, but the difference now is belief. Inside the building first, outside later. If Sanders keeps stacking performances like this, controlled, composed, accountable, the Browns won't be asking if he belongs anymore. They'll be asking how far this thing can go. The Steelers game didn't feel loud on the scoreboard, but inside the league it hit heavy. As sources say, this was the moment evaluators stopped framing Shedeur Sanders as interesting and started framing him as reliable. That distinction matters more than touchdowns. In the NFL, reliability keeps jobs, flash gets clips, but trust gets snaps. What made this win different was the context. The Browns weren't protecting a lead built by big plays, they were surviving. The offensive line leaked pressure, the receivers struggled to separate, the Steelers disguised coverage and baited mistakes all game. And still, Sanders didn't panic. That's what scouts obsess over, not arm strength, not swagger, decision-making when the plan breaks. As sources say, the Browns' internal grading on Sanders spiked after this game, not because of numbers, but because of situational mastery. Third and long decisions improved. Red zone discipline tightened. Throwaways replaced desperation heaves. Those are growth markers teams chart week to week. This game also mattered because of who it came against. Pittsburgh doesn't give rookies anything. They disguise blitzes, rotate safeties late, and dare young quarterbacks to prove they understand what's happening post-snap. Sanders didn't dominate them, but he didn't embarrass himself either, and that's how respect starts in this division. Another overlooked element was tempo control. Sanders slowed the game down intentionally. He used cadence to identify coverage. He manipulated linebackers with his eyes. That's veteran behavior showing up early. As sources say, coaches circled multiple snaps where Sanders changed protection calls that prevented free rushers. This wasn't a breakthrough game, it was a confirmation game. The Browns learned they don't have to hide him, they don't have to script everything, they can let him think. That realization shifts how teams build game plans going forward. In this league, the moment you prove you won't beat yourself is the moment coaches start trusting you to beat others. The post-game press conference didn't go viral because of a joke or a soundbite. It went viral because of honesty. As sources say, the Browns front office replayed that podium moment just as much as they replayed game tape. That's because leadership doesn't only show up under center, it shows up under scrutiny. Sanders didn't deflect blame, he didn't chase praise. He spoke like someone aware of the weight he carries, not just as a quarterback, but as a standard setter. He talked about preparation, mental clarity, and patience. That language matters. Coaches listen for it. Teammates listen for it even harder. As sources say, veteran players noticed how Sanders framed the win. He didn't say I, he said we. He credited protection calls, defensive effort, and field position. That's not media training, that's locker room instinct. Players want a quarterback who understands the game is bigger than stats. The NFL has chewed up countless young quarterbacks who spoke too confidently too early. Sanders avoided that trap. He didn't promise greatness, he promised work. That's the fastest way to earn credibility in a hard-nosed building like Cleveland. What really turned heads was his admission that the game is slowing down. That's a dangerous thing to say if it isn't true, because defenses will test it immediately. As sources say, the coaching staff believes it is true. They've seen it in practice. Faster reads, better anticipation, fewer wasted steps in the pocket. This press conference also reframed the season. Instead of rookie surviving chaos, the narrative quietly shifted to rookie learning how to control chaos. That's the leap franchises wait years to see. The Steelers game may not end up on highlight reels, but this press conference will be remembered internally. It showed emotional maturity, accountability, and awareness of the long game. If this breakdown delivered real insight, make sure to like the video and subscribe for more honest football analysis without the noise.